My name's Kamel, and I love music. The album I'm reviewing today is an album by an artist named r.u.u.n.e. r.u.u.n.e is a vocalist and producer, and r.u.u.n.e's most recent album is called Neptune in Babylon. If I had a gun to my head though, and I had to put this album in like a Twitter bottle of 280 characters, I would probably just say Neptune in Babylon is a 90s inspired take on electro synth pop with a sci-fi-delic cyberpunk tinge and a folk lyrics-based aesthetic which rewards after multiple listens. But this is not an album that can be enveloped within 280 characters, let alone can it even be contained within the very speakers that it bubbles out of, like a cacophonous heavenly orchestra calling one into a mystical reality that might be achieved if we could only cross that ocean and hear the message from the angels. It's really a deep listening experience, and it comes off as completely original and forward-thinking. The first track on Neptune in Babylon is called The Chant, and it's as if the ritual begins with this song. r.u.u.n.e invites us to partake in this magic, and the sound is very futuristic, very industrial, and as soon as the track began, the first time I listened to it, it felt as though I was hovering by the reverberation of some infinitely complex electromagnetic technology which careened me through the cosmos, a cosmos in which the depth of my experience was dependent only upon the fertility of my imagination. It was a perfect track to play in my car. It felt like it turned my car into a hover car, honestly, with the heavy bass line that gently carried me through the jarring dynamics of the synths and the other spacey audio effects, and it gently carried me through my ride without any turbulence. And that's basically how the chant starts. You know, you're invited into this spacey, industrial sounding world, like you're in a hover car almost, or but it's really interesting. The next track is called Leo, and it starts and ends with what sounds like a movie reel being initialized and spinning, basically, just to project r.u.u.n.e's shamanic vision. And the reel is made inaudible as the song starts. It's drowned out by the outpour of lava that melts and all it touches as the sickly dizzying bass line whirls us around for some kind of warm-up dance around the fire. The vocals burst out of nowhere and firmly grasp the listener just by the abundance of passion that's presented in their delivery. And what I also like about the song are the sharp, distinct tones and the wide range that r.u.u.n.e possesses as a vocalist is really shown in this song. And like I said, it's like a dance, like a ritualistic dance around a fire, where we're invoking our spirits. And that song basically leads into the third track, and the third track on the album is my favorite track just for the lyrics. Just like lyrics alone, I would take this track over any track on the album just because I love these lyrics. The production though reminds me somewhat of like a Merryweather post-Pavilion Animal Collective. It's very, and I mean that as a compliment because I love that album, Merryweather post-Pavilion. But it's a very dreamy sound, and it contains very simple slow drums under an adolescent melody that echoes throughout to complement the spacey synth scales that race sporadically through this Pac-Man maze of futility that r.u.u.n.e runs through. r.u.u.n.e travels to the depths of their own space and mind, basically to dig out universal nuggets of truth, which we can all relate to. Truths such as, you know, we all have an ego, and sometimes that ego gets the best of us. r.u.u.n.e says basically, you know, we can do divination, but we'll still do stupid things. You know, we can take part in the ritual, but we'll make mistakes and have regrets. We still have to evolve. We still have to try our best to improve. And r.u.u.n.e says we can feel intuition, but we can never see what's coming till it's up against our face. Right up against our face. You know, r.u.u.n.e says I can see the future, but that doesn't stop the past from catching up with me. So basically what r.u.u.n.e is saying is that life throws us all curveballs. And often when you think you know where something is going in life, you're totally wrong. And so at least if you're disappointed by your expectations, you can put this song on and take solace in the fact that, you know, r.u.u.n.e told you. You had to know that it had to go like this, that is. We all have unforeseen obstacles that we have to face, and that's why we practice using our intuition and our foresight. The next track is called Shred Drastic. And on Shred Drastic, it's like a swirling, psychedelic, sci-fi tinged rage. And it has this undulating bass line, which, like the first track, it would sound great in a 22nd century hover car. Honestly, it's reminiscent of something the Black Angels might have done. Psychedelic rock band the Black Angels from Austin, Texas. One of my favorite psychedelic rock bands of the present day. But anyway, it sounds like something they would do if they made electronic music, which is awesome because they have like a really dark psychedelic tone. It's not like all rainbows and free love and enlightenment. It's also the darkness and facing that darkness. That's what I like about the Black Angels, and that's what I like about r.u.u.n.e. r.u.u.n.e is able to face that darkness, and like I said before, dig deep into one's own psyche to find those universal truths that we can all connect to. I mean, r.u.u.n.e just wants to strip down what a human is, what we are to each other, and how we should live our lives together so that we can be as free as possible. And in this song, it's about just letting out your spirit. Just be who you are, let out your spirit, your fire, your passion. Let it all out as often as possible, every single day if possible. Because it has a dark sound, which is what I like about this song. It has a dark sound that contrasts with somewhat positive lyrics. And it's strange, because it dips into some experimentalism, like some minimalist experimentalism for a moment there. And then it breaks back into the chorus that ends with, how have we been sold on something so wrong, something so wrong? How have we been sold on something so wrong, something so wrong? At the end of the song, there's a perfect electronic dance jam. And it tells you to release, it hints for the listener to release the tension, release the pain just by getting your move on, just by releasing your spirit. And your movement is what feeds the fire, your passion. So you have to move to be moved. You have to move to be moved. The next song is called Dawn Dusk, and it features more futuristic 90s sounding glitches, beeps, and boops all laid over some kind of finicky drum beat, and heavenly harmonic vocals that are layered over one another and interrupted by this occasional static fuzz and distortion as the reception of an angelic vision fades in and out of visibility. This track really teases the listener by laying the vocals low under the beat, so that when the beat finally falls away and comes back, we can get closer and closer to that angelic voice. But then it just ends abruptly, and you can't hear the voice anymore over the beat. So I like the way it does that. It distorts in and out. But then once it ends abruptly, it's as if just the angel departed. The vocals are gone, the angel departed, and we're left basically just with the desolate landscape and the dreariness of the next track, which is called Detroit. A dark, desperate mess is how I would describe Detroit, which is aptly named. It features a jarring, tormented bass line and drums that pounds like a headache at first. And I think r.u.u.n.e obviously meant to do this, to make this song sound like, you're having a splitting headache from living in this cruel, desecrated world. But r.u.u.n.e invites the listener to escape that dreariness through this window. r.u.u.n.e says the window is a portal. And when the beat drops, it sounds as if that window is instantly transformed into that portal. By r.u.u.n.e's chanting vocals, and the swirling synths and the heavy bass that take over the listener. And the chorus sounds sort of like an angelic choir. That's what I love about this song. So we were teased with the last track, but now we finally come closer and closer to those angelic voices and to heaven in general. And in this song, it feels as if we do escape the prison of this world. And once the bass is taken out near the end of the song, it sounds as if hell has burned itself to non-existence. And we're now accompanied by these angelic piano chords, and we finally come face to face with that voice we were trying to get closer to on the previous track. And I think the way r.u.u.n.e set that up, the way you're trying to get closer and closer and being to that voice and being teased by it, is like, once you lose your innocence as a child and you start degrading yourself, you try to get closer and closer to that child self again, and that child self eventually fades out, but then you have to find it again. It's your responsibility to find that innocent child self again, because we forget to love that innocent part of us. We were all innocent once, and sometimes we're taught to not love, we're taught to hate, and it's a way to teach us to forgive ourselves for hating, so that we can begin to love again. So the next track is called Mercy, and Mercy starts out with this 80s vibe, and it sounds like something that you might hear in like an 80s movie as it starts off, but then as the beat takes over, it sounds totally different. It sounds like something that could be in the part of a video game where the battle's been won and the victor must either just like slay the rest of the enemy and take their weapons, or just show mercy. At its essence, though, the song is like a confession to one's needless cruelty to others, and even cruelty to oneself, for not showing forgiveness to oneself. But it pleads for us to show mercy, while it cries that r.u.u.n.e feels they can never be forgiven for the way they are. r.u.u.n.e says, I can never be cold, I can never be kind, I can never be sold, I can never be shown mercy. And it's truly an epic song as it builds up to that revealing chorus of r.u.u.n.e's painful and deeply felt confession. And it builds on the theme of alienation that we see throughout the album, as r.u.u.n.e declares, I can never be cool. But r.u.u.n.e is proud of who they are, and that is really the overall confession. People may be cruel, the world may be cruel, and never accept you for who you are. May tell you you'll never be forgiven. They may try to corrupt you by telling you that the way you were born is sinful. But really, just fuck them. That's okay. Because at least when death comes, you can face yourself and have no regrets. None of us are shown mercy in the face of death. Forgiveness comes from within. The last track on the album is called Ocean. Ocean is definitely my favorite track on this album. I will play this over and over and over again, as I have for the past, 2 weeks. And I really, really enjoy this song. It's really original, and I think, just overall, it's my favorite song on this album. But Ocean starts with these, bleeps, kind of, that we were talking about earlier, the bleeps and the bloops, kind of 90s Game Boy inspired sounds. But they resemble more like a radar, like a interstellar radar, calling out an SOS in a galactic Morse code. As the track builds, and as the layers pile, it resembles like some kind of Animal Collective track, featuring really heavy looped oscillating synths, a distorted bass, and a rat-a-tat of a drum beat that helps the tonal shift to the bass line, which is constantly mutating while being distorted. The sounds when I listened to the song had me visualizing r.u.u.n.e as a galactic vagabond, sitting on an ice chunk of Saturn's rings, space boots dangling weightlessly, while they shoot a telespectromic message into a vast desolate sea in an attempt to reach anyone who can help them across this ocean to get back home, wherever home is, and whatever home means for that matter. The opening lyrics invite the listener to ask themselves, what is a man? And is it something you can throw away, or not? r.u.u.n.e's alien sci-fi feeling also parallels the feeling of many people who are pushed into boxes and alienated by society for their resistance to conform to social norms, all types of social norms, whether it's race or gender. But r.u.u.n.e questions what it means to be a man, and if people can throw that concept away, and not force it on others, so as to stop us from dividing each other into these categorical tribes that leech off each other. Because r.u.u.n.e has a global perspective, it seems like. And it's beyond global, it's like a galactic perspective that delves deep into the insecurities and vulnerabilities of an individual to identify with universal forces that make up a human. It's an emotional album, it's intergalactic, it's introspective, it's forward-thinking, and it's body-moving music. How much better can you get than that? That's something that I can always kind of thank for representing, is music that's forward-thinking and emotional and heartfelt, and at the same time moves your body, because like I said, you gotta move to be moved. And what I love about this album is it's something you can move to, and at the same time it's something you can be moved by. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my review. I hope all of you have a great week, and a great day, great night, whatever time it is where you are, a great now. Thank you.